Hey, welcome everybody. It is Thursday, April 30th, 2020. I am Michael Clark. This is Facts at 5 here at the LTV studio in Waynescott, New York. And today we'll be talking about how Suffolk County is going to be reopening, the town government plannings to reopen, and local art institutions, how they're coping. And Morgan, how are you coping?
I'm coping.
You are coping.
I'm coping.
We're all coping.
Yep, we're all coping.
Yes. And onward we go.
Onward, yes.
So what about the stats? We got any new stats today?
Yes, we do. We have 34,387 Suffolk County confirmed cases as of this morning, 652 in Southampton, which is 11.3 out of 1,000, and in East Hampton we have 184, which is 8.4 out of 1,000 people.
Okay.
So the amount is going up a little bit.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
It's, again...
It's not over is the point.
Right. And
People are still being infected.
Right. We are on a downward trend, though.
We are on a downward trend, yes.
Right. Steve Malone actually talked about that yesterday, that, he's liking the way that he sees it just in terms of Suffolk County.
Which leads us to reopening.
Right.
How we're going to do that.
Right. And so we'll start with what Governor Cuomo, as you know, he's poised to lift the business and personal restrictions in areas in New York State. We talked about that yesterday also. And County Executive Steve Malone is considering what such plans, what it means to Suffolk County. And he outlined what requirements would need to be met to lift some or all of those restrictions. And the first thing would be, obviously, the county's hospitalizations need to demonstrate a consecutive 14-day decline, which the county is in a week of meeting. That's been the guideline since the president put it out weeks ago. At least it seems like weeks ago. The last time there was a spike in hospitalization was on April 20th, so that's good news. Right, like, as you said, we're heading in the right direction. The county must also not exceed a 70% capacity in both its hospital and intensive care beds. So, so the county is currently at a 74% capacity for regular beds and 69% for the ICU beds. So we're kind of there. We're just about, moving right around the right number. And then, of course, then the big thing is to have the testing readily available and contact tracing in place. What he doesn't want to happen is the reinfection to start and things to start surging again. And he really feels strongly, by he I mean Steve Malone, that to have to reinstate the restrictions would be emotionally, psychologically and economically devastating, and he said that means we need to get this right.
I think that is a great line and really, really true. And this article we got this from the East Hampton Star from today.
Right.
It's a really good article, really spells it out. I think Jennifer Landis did it, but we really appreciate the local journalists who are working so hard to bring us all this great information. But I love that line.
Yeah. From
Steve Malone, that if we're gonna reopen and then have to go back to this, people won't be able to handle it.
Right.
It is going to be emotionally, psychologically, and economically devastating. So that's why we have to be patient, listen, and try to get it right the first time.
Yeah, that's true. And also, when we reopen, we're not going back to the way that we were.
Right.
We're reopening in the quote, the new norm, and things are going to look different. Like businesses that are now closed will need to show how they will protect their workers, and how workers and customers with distancing, masks, and disinfection. Parks and recreational sites will need to limit their visitors. Most openings will be in phases, not all at once.
Right.
I mean, it's we have a long road ahead of us, but we keep going. He said, here's what he said. He said, we're not transitioning back to where we were 7 weeks ago. We're transitioning to a new normal. So.
And part of that is our local government. Our East Hampton Town Board has established a committee to plan for safe reopening of local businesses and the economy. And Supervisor Van Scoyoc and Councilwoman Sylvia Overby will work with local business leaders to develop recommendations. East Hampton Town's Economy Reopening Committee will work to coordinate state guidelines and specific industry practices with any local measures. And I think that's, for us out here, we have such we're very different.
Right.
from even Brookhaven.
Yeah.
I mean, so the town really has to figure out how to do that specifically to us. And I think that, and they're up to the task. The reopening plan will have to take into account the COVID-19 infection rate. So that's the thing. If we see a spike in the next, in a week and a half, they won't be able to reopen on May 15th.
Right.
So we need to,
Unfortunately,
put it on
us,
wait.
where we are, well, fortunately and unfortunately, is that we are a destination
Right.
for a lot of people, right? We're like, oh, good, we're open now. Let's go out to the Hamptons. Let's take a ride out to the lighthouse. I was just on Jason was doing the meeting, Peter Bensue's meeting, the town board meeting, special meeting about the COVID virus, and had people calling in. And one gentleman came on. He was actually a captain of a boat out there, and saying, I get it. You guys are doing a good job, but we really need to. Can't we find a way to tell people, it's stay home. You still need, you just don't take the, day trippers is what he was talking about, and how difficult it is to deal with that.
Right.
In this kind of environment. It's, how do you, we're not at, East Germany during,
Right.
bad times. It's kind of a different world now, and it's
we're
tough
not
to
at
hold people
100%,
down.
but we got it. Yeah, we got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, and we touched on this information yesterday too. That came out in 27 East, that an ongoing study conducted by New York State indicated that as many as 17% of the people living on Long Island, and perhaps as many as 20% of New York City residents, may have already contracted the coronavirus, many of them unknowingly. And the study, which relied on the random testing of about 3,000 people for the natural antibody to the coronavirus, reveals statistically that hundreds of thousands of more people have probably contracted the coronavirus than has been borne out in the diagnostic testing.
Yep.
And
we've been saying this all along,
Yeah.
because there's no testing. So how do you know?
Yeah.
It's like if you tested, if you were like, okay, if you tested everyone for cancer who had cancer for cancer, they would have a large percentage of people would have cancer. So by testing only the people who are sick
Right.
with the symptoms that the disease causes, I mean, it's been really interesting to watch. This article, by the way, is from 27 East, the press news group, and it is highlighting exactly what we've been talking about, but also, what the data is showing.
Yeah.
And we won't really even know about this in probably for another year or so.
Right.
And what I'm finding, and I think I've been seeing people talk about this, and it is frustrating that there's so much misinformation out there that
Yeah.
it is really hard to pick through. And
Oh,
I
really?
think that, oh, really? And I think that I hope that what we're succeeding doing here is really giving the facts of just what the facts are. The facts are that there was a test, a
Right.
random study of 3,000 people, and this is what they found.
Right.
We don't know why. We don't know
Right.
if maybe the study was flawed, but this is what we're reporting from, that
Right.
this happened. However, we need to be aware that there's lots of people out there with agendas of what they want you to believe, not this.
Right. No, that's absolutely true. I can't even really. I can't. I kind of glance through social media, and I can't even. Regardless of what side of the aisle you sit on, there's just so much bad information floating around, and people hear half of a sentence or don't
Right.
read the entire article.
Or they just read the headline or
they
whatever,
just
right.
read the headline, and it's dangerous. And unfortunately, so folks, go to a proper news source when you
Yeah.
and
Media literacy.
And where is that proper news source? That opens up
And that
another
opens
whole
up another
question,
thing, yeah.
right? It depends on who you're watching.
I will also, I think I went to journalism school, so what we learned was that, first of all, you get a primary source.
Right.
But also, the next best thing is to get several news sources and
Yes.
know that they have different sources. You never just believe anything. Which brings us to our next topic, which is the drug everyone's talking about. Which, the reason we're including this is because Dr. Fauci seems to believe that this might be something that might work on some people.
Right.
It is called remdesivir, and the FDA is likely to authorize its emergency use. Now, one of the things...
Remdesivir.
remdesivir.
It's like a band name.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good band name.
Really awesome band name.
Ladies and gentlemen, remdesivir.
It doesn't seem like a knockout, but it is proven that it can help, especially with people who have the virus already. It can lessen the amount of time and maybe the extent of the damage, and therefore the extent of the damage. I saw someone interviewed last night who was on the trial, and he said that he went from, one day he took it, and then really 2 days later he was better.
Really?
So so that's a really positive thing.
This isn't the next hydroxychloroquine, right?
Well, that's the thing. We don't really know.
Right.
They're sort of in a desperate state because they need to find something.
Right.
I mean, this is a virus like the cold virus or the flu virus. It's hard to get a vaccine for some of these things. I mean,
What does Tony say? What does Tony say?
Tony says, I love Tony.
I love the way he calls him Tony.
Anthony.
Anthony Fauci.
What does he say? He says, while it doesn't seem like a knockout, what it has proven is that a drug can block this virus.
Well, that's good.
So that's good.
I guess it's all baby steps until
It is all baby
they
steps.
finally come up
baby
with
steps to vaccine, baby steps to cure,
Yep.
baby steps to regular life.
But that's a drug, though, that they did test in China, right? And I think they tested it in China, and they didn't come up with the same results. So I think...
Oh, right, in the Lancet, yeah.
Right.
And it wasn't useful against Ebola. This is from the New York Times, by the way, today.
Yeah.
But you're not allowed to go. And right now, the company who makes it, you can't buy any of it. So stop thinking you're going to go buy it and get
good,
rich.
yeah. Right.
Because that's part of what's going on. And it's a frantic search, which the Times says. Another experimental treatment for severely ill COVID-19 patients is to give them blood plasma from recovered patients, but there's nowhere near enough plasma to go around.
Well, let's just keep our fingers crossed that it does work,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
That's what we
Well,
can
maybe
do.
once we know if we have the antibodies, because we don't have that antibody test, we can start giving plasma.
And you go to Pizza Hut.
And you go to the old Pizza Hut.
Pizza Hut in Riverhead to get that done. Okay.
Find out if you get the antibody test.
So let's talk about how some of people or organizations are coping with this, the arts organizations specifically, like West Hampton Beach and Parish Art Museum. What are you seeing from them? Anything?
Well, there's a great article in the Press News Group today by Annette Hinkle, Arts Organizations Adapt in the Time of COVID-19. And it talks about a friend of mine, Julian Pensaboon from West Hampton Beach Performing Arts Center. She was just named executive director, I want to say March 15th or something. And this was like the first things that happened.
Oh, wow.
So she'd worked there for years, right? You guys should have a little support group. She had been there for years, so she understands the place and how it works.
Good.
But what they're doing, West Hampton Beach Performing Arts Center books a lot of big name musicians and performers. And so what Julianne said is we're aiming for not canceling without a rescheduled date and working very closely with the talent and figuring that out. We're thinking if restrictions are eased a little, but we can't have full audiences, the artist can stream from the theater. So that's a good idea. The parish is saying that they basically reinvented themselves as a digital museum, and it's opened a lot of doors and new opportunity. I'm looking forward to seeing more of what happens with that, because I think that's a really interesting outcome, potentially, because everybody's learned how to do all this stuff by now.
Yeah, right. And Bay Street, right? And we actually highlighted that.
Yep.
Angela did an interview with Valerie DiLorenzo. She does that Friday Sip and Sing over there, and apparently they're bringing in 150 to 180 people per week. And,
Fantastic, yeah.
people just going on virtually and drinking, I guess, and singing.
By themselves, I don't know. I guess that's all right now.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
You're not really drinking alone if you're on Zoom,
Right.
I guess. In the Southampton Arts Center, they pretty much canceled their summer season, but they're hoping to offer some outdoor concerts and films. And Guildhall, which is our friends over there in East Hampton, Andrew Grover says it's a very interesting new reality. But now we're programming for a single, because they have all these different spaces, but now they're programming for a single space,
right,
which is the internet. I thought that was really interesting that, they have a museum, they have a theater, and now they have the internet.
Well, yeah, and they're just adapting. They're working together
Yep.
as a team and coming together as, we've done here at LTV, and with a lot of support and everybody, relying on each other. But
Yeah.
that's pretty much all we have time for today.
All right.
And but once again, I'd like to thank Sound Aircraft Services for their support, and the East Hampton Town Board and the East Hampton the
village.
LTV Board of Directors. And if you are helping to, if you are interested in helping to donate to Facts at 5, just send us an email at facts@ltveh.org. Thanks a lot, everybody, and have a good day.